Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the How Did You Learn to Do That podcast. Thank you so much for tuning back in this week for our 8th episode. Can you believe we've had 8 episodes? That means we've been around for 8 weeks, and I'm just enjoying and loving this entire process. And I'm so grateful for all of you for sharing, liking, and subscribing us on all our social media accounts, as well as sharing this podcast with your family and your friends to help us build this community. So, as always, if you have any questions or if you have anyone that you'd like to nominate, please let me know. Send me a message on Instagram, or you can also contact me through our contact form on our website, howdidyoulearntotothat.com. Today, we have a very exciting episode. We actually don't have just one, but we have 2 guests that are so inspiring. They're motivational. They live their life very meaningfully, and I can't wait for you to hear their story. And just a reminder to let you know that I do have a journaling tool on my website. You just sign up through the email list pop-up that once you go to my website, there will be a pop-up, and you sign up there to get on my email list, and you will get your journaling guide sent to you. And I hope you've been using that journaling guide to help you get started in self-reflecting and writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, and helping to look over the kind of mindset that you currently have, or the mindset that you would like to work to grow towards in the future. If you have any questions or if you want some guidance, feel free again to message me on Instagram or through the contact form, and I'd be happy to set up a call, a Zoom call, or even chat through email to help to guide you to get started on your journey to your purpose in life. In addition to, just before we get started with this episode, I just wanted to draw attention to the current pandemic that is going on. And I'm from Canada, and I just want to say that our provincial and federal leaders, for the most part, are women, trailblazing women that are strong, that are compassionate, that are leading with empathy. And I got this shirt, and I wanted to wear it to pay some homage and some respect to them. So Theresa Tam is our federal leader, Bonnie Henry, Hinshaw, Davila, Russell, Morrison, and Candola. So I just wanted to say, as a woman in public health, to these leaders, that you're inspiring. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I just can't be more proud of the country that I'm from and the response that we've had in Canada under your leadership. So thank you so much. And thank you to all the other healthcare heroes, from essential workers to, from all essential workers actually, from produce drivers to clerks at grocery stores to, Starbucks baristas, because I know we all love our Starbucks and any other coffee places, to our drivers from DoorDash to Amazon to Skip the Dishes to every single company that's offering delivery to your door now, as well as curbside pickup. All small businesses that are working so hard to get through this pandemic, as well as all healthcare heroes from all aspects, not just doctors and nurses, but I'm talking about everybody from janitors to staff to corporate staff to executives to clerks at clinics to registration to everything. There's so many different kinds of people and roles that help make hospitals function. So this is a thank you to all of you. So thank you. All right, so let's get started. So today we're going to have Diana and Matthew here to share their story. I know just a tiny little bit about it, but it's so inspiring from what I know. And just following Diana on Instagram over the last couple of months, it's been so encouraging to see her energy and the energy that she puts forth and out to the world, and the energy she surrounds her family with. So as well, her Matthew with their 3 kids as well. And so I was so excited to have them both on the podcast this week, and I'm so excited for you to hear their story. So Diana was born and raised in California. She's a mom of 3 amazing boys and a wife to her high school sweetheart, her high school best friend actually, a tropical plant collector, and a passionate yoga and fitness instructor. With over 16 years experience, she shares her love of all things wellness and teaches well beyond her mat. Through her own personal journey, she was inspired to inspire others. Diana believes that collective movement and meaningful connection is the way to make the biggest impact on the community around us. Her intention is to make movement and meditation accessible to everyone so that others can flourish into their true selves and live more meaningful lives. And Matthew was born in the Philippines, raised in California, and now resides in British Columbia with his wife Diana and their 3 kids, Logan, Landon, and Lawson. Matthew has held various occupations from software quality assurance manager to account development manager, but is currently running his own business as a home inspector. While his career is important, he believes his most important job is to be a good husband and father. Matthew really values God, his family, relationships, and personal growth. He wants to inspire people through the life he's lived by teaching them lessons about faith, perseverance, and purpose. Whatever occupation he's performing, his mission statement has always been the same: to be of service to others and always aspire to make a difference in people's lives. So thank you both for joining me to the podcast this week. I sincerely appreciate
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And Diana is definitely a tropical plant collector, and she has influenced me, and I finally bought my first one this week.
Congratulations.
I saw someone in White Rock, they sell plants, so she posted she was selling the string of hearts, and it looked so nice, and I thought it was going to be easy, but she literally gave me the little root. I had to figure out how to pot it and start it, and then I realized that was not a good start for me.
Oh no!
I don't know anything about plants, but I'm so excited, and hopefully I can keep it alive and have it grow.
Well, I can give you a plant. I would be more than happy to give you your first thriving plant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys kind of get started in sharing how you got started on this journey to living a more purposeful and meaningful life.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, life is a pretty long journey, and you go through experiences that changes your perspective in a lot of ways, and sometimes it's good experiences, sometimes it's bad experiences, and I guess the question of how I started to live a more purposeful life. I guess we can start with kind of some of those events that really kind of shook our lives and, had us reevaluate things and like that. But yeah, I was kind of born with a heart condition, and, that heart condition kind of got worse when it got infected in 2012, and I went to the hospital and I got sick, and we didn't know what was happening at first, and I thought I had the flu, and I just lived with it for a couple weeks. I went to work. The doctors diagnosed it as something less severe than it really was, and then suddenly, when we were at home, I collapsed, and Dee caught me, and she was kind of screaming and thought the worst thing happened to me. So we rushed to the hospital. We ended up going there. I had emergency heart surgery. I stayed in the hospital for about 2 months, and along with those 2 months, I had about 4 open heart surgeries. So that whole situation, believe it or not, it wasn't that situation that made me live a more purposeful life, but it did contribute to it. Just recently, 8 years later, I think I just started to grasp how, fragile life was. And, going through my day, I just felt like there was something missing, and I wasn't living out the dreams that I kind of had set for myself, right? And although, that situation did propel a thought in my mind that, hey, anything, can happen in life. And if we don't take advantage of our opportunity here, and it's true that we only live one life, we really got to take, what we're given and make the most of it,
Mhm.
So I don't know, every day I just felt like there was more purpose in life. And, just recently I said, okay, so I got to take this opportunity to kind of like really hone in on what I'm doing in life, not just making money and living this kind of day-to-day life without any purpose. So what I started to do was, to kind of get my mind right, was wake up really early in the morning, um, you know, 5 o'clock, and start a day with, feeling grateful for the things that I have, and then getting my mind right to kind of handle the day, um, and be more purposeful in the actions that I take during my day, whether it's with my career, my family, or anything else. It's just important to really have an awareness of what you're doing every day, and starting my day with kind of a refresh on your mind on what you want to be and who you want to be, kind of help me live a more purposeful life, right? um, I don't know how things are with you, but I'm just kind of starting that journey 8 years later from this experience, and putting it all together. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's an inspiring story because, that's, I don't know, I think that I've been through not that, but something, similar, like a health condition where it totally just changed my life, but it took me a while to fully understand and grasp the situation, like you said. And so that's, inspiring that you went through that and you've taken that and now thinking of living a more purposeful life. And
mhm.
getting up early, like Jackie said in her episode, is like magic hour.
Yeah, for
Magic
sure.
happens when you get up earlier. And so, I commend you on that, because it's hard. It's hard for me to get
Yeah,
up
no,
earlier too, right? So that's amazing.
yeah, no, there's definitely days where I want to stay in bed, but when you compare the days, or when I compare the days that I kind of don't do this like routine in the morning to get my mind right, and find out my purpose for the day. Comparing the 2 days where I don't wake up and I do wake up, it's completely night and day, because it really sets up your mind and how to deal with challenges, and making sure that you're in line with your deeper purpose, even when challenges arise and get you off balance.
Hmm.
It's always, you can always refer to kind of like starting your day and going, okay, I remember my purpose for why I'm living and what I want to do, so that even though that things can kind of get you off track, you can always kind of revert to that morning or that day, and be a reminder to continue stay on that path, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. This pandemic has made a lot of us work from home and have that shift in going back to work and realizing that before I would get up, get dressed, get some breakfast, get out the door, and it was just
Yeah,
all rush, 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 and you get into work
right.
and then it's busy, busy, busy. But now actually having the time to get up slowly, have time to just sit and reflect, and taking that time of commute out of the picture and using that time instead to reflect on what you're going to do for the day or your purpose for the day, or your intent, setting your intentions.
Mhm.
I've noticed also a huge difference. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. How
And
about you?
yeah, I was just going to say, and Diana, how do you want to share your experience? In
Yeah, I think my story starts further back than Matthew's. I feel like it just, for me, it's um I think it started like before we moved from California to here. And I think um there's a deeper root of our story, but I guess I'll just start from, when we kind of made the decision to move here and uproot our lives from California, a life that we've been living since we were young. It was a completely different life for me because I grew up very sheltered. We didn't do much as a family. We didn't go on crazy trips or, do anything outside of my family's comfort zone. And I have a brother and sister, and we all have very different personalities. And so you're sheltering the same child, you're trying to create the same child over and over again. And there was always something tugging at me because I wasn't the same as my sister, or I wasn't the same as my brother. And so once I was able to move out of that, and much later in life, obviously when I was, 27, when we were able to move outside of that, I just noticed a change in me. I noticed that, the moment I set foot here or set foot outside of the grasp of my family, or the grasp of the life that I was comfortable living, that complacent lifestyle, especially in California, we're very fast track. We're very like, go, 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 work till you die. Our lifestyle is completely different from here. And having set our roots here and flourishing from it, I feel like life is very different. Life has slowed down for us. We value our time with our family more. And like Matthew said, is that, even with his surgery, it was a scary time. It was scary before that. Like I said, moving here, just in general, we didn't know anybody. We had no idea. We literally packed up our bags, moved here, and put our trust and everything in our faith that we would meet someone, that we would make friends, we would make family, we would make a life here. Because I always tell people all the time, prior to living here, I knew nothing about Canada, to be perfectly honest. I mean, that might be really naive of me, but I had no idea. And it's very similar to this San Francisco, where we were from, but life is different for sure. The value of family, the values that we carry as a couple, translated here better than it has ever translated there, even though all of our families back home. So when we got here, and it was shortly thereafter that happened to him and he collapsed at home, I just sunk down. I was like, we don't know anybody here. We hadn't planted our roots enough to have a support system here. Mm-hmm. And so when we got to the hospital, the only place that we had planted, and it was only a few months, was our church. Mm-hmm. So when that happened and he went into the hospital and things started to get serious, I said, like, who am I going to call? Mm-hmm. We have no one here. So I called our friends from our church, and I called our family back home, and they were on the first flight out and so forth. And I think for me, and I say this all the time, like, when Matthew is an amazing person, like, if you're in the presence of him, I know, and I'm probably going to cry, you should probably get a box of tissues, but he's such an amazing person. I've known him for more than half of my life, and I just feel like he's a person that you don't want to leave the earth, like, at all. So when this was all happening, and the doctor came out and said, like, it's probably a good time to call your family. He has like less than a 5% chance of survival. It's really bad. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They said they're just gonna like go in and take the fluid out of his heart or whatever, and it should be fine. And she was like, well, it doesn't look good. And she was telling me something completely different. And I don't know if I had, selective hearing on when the doctor was talking to me. I'm not sure if I was just in complete shock of it all. But when she came out to tell me that, I literally fell to my knees. And I was like, there is no possible way that this is happening right now. A lot of people that may not know our story, we've been through a lot just in the start of our marriage. We've been through a lot, and things that would break a lot of people. And we put a lot of our trust in our faith, and knowing that if we believe and if we put all of our trust in God, and again, for everybody it's different whatever you believe in, but for us, if we put in all of our faith and trust into him, he will take care of us. And whatever, I think throughout our day-to-day lives, whatever happens, we have to let go of. I mean, initially we have that first anxiousness, that first like shock, that fear, but once, like when something's wrong with myself or something's wrong with him, you know, we always just go like, okay, you just got to take it one day at a time. You've got to trust, maybe pray on it, see what unfolds and unravels on its own. And so at that time in my life, and that current situation, I did that. I put my trust, but I put my life on the line. I pretty much said, like, I will do anything to keep him alive, whether it's taking my life, whether it's, you know, promising to impact others. I'm sorry, I might cry. But yeah, I said, out of anybody that you should take me, because I can't let the world be without this guy, and I can't let my kids be without him. So yeah, it was really hard because we didn't know anybody, but in that moment of uncertainty, and in that moment of possibly losing my husband, so many people showed up. We had so many people come from the Bay Area, and so many people from our church show up, and people praying all around the world. We had pastors from like the biggest churches praying for his life. People that didn't even know him. And excuse me, even with family, my brother, this is a crazy thing, my brother was gonna come, and he was telling his coach, he was a softball coach at the time, he was telling him, like, I really have to leave, my brother-in-law is dying. And he was like, you know, he's in Canada, he's this, he was just telling him like briefly, and he was, wait, is his name Matthew? And he was like, yeah, that's my brother-in-law. And he was like, yeah, I just got an email to pray for him from our church. And so we call them prayer warriors. We had prayer warriors all around the world praying for his life, which again took, you know, multiple surgeries along the way, where I was like pleading to the surgeon, like, can his body survive this? How much can he endure as a person? And it was really hard for me at the time, because a lot of people didn't know. There was only a select few people that knew that I was actually pregnant. Like, we found out a week before we were pregnant with our second child. And we were just about to let everybody know, and we were just waiting. And so I was going through that, making sure that I was okay, while making sure that he was okay at the same time. And it was just like, I remember before they put him under, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, but before they put him under, he could barely breathe. And I just looked at him, I'm like, you better come back to me. Like, I don't care what it is, you better come back to me, because like, we have a life together. We have a life that you cannot leave. And they put him under, and it was like a scene out of a movie. And I was living and breathing that movie from day to day for 2 months. So, you know, thankfully, he's fine and in great health, but it did propel us to lead an even more purposeful life, because even the events prior to that were already guided by our faith. They already set the motion of us wanting to serve others and just be more present and be more, yeah, be servants to the community around us because we've been taken care of.
Mhm.
So I think as we were here and meeting people and guided to, I don't know, we always, well, I always say, I don't know what you say, but I always say that, wherever we plant ourselves, because never did I imagine that I would be here in Canada, there's a reason we're here. There's a reason that we're here, either to put in work that God has set us on, to spread light to some place, someone, something, whatever it is. And when our work here is done, then maybe we move somewhere else, or maybe we're here to stay. And I actually pray on that quite frequently. Like, if we're meant to be here, we'll continue to do our work. Just like guide us wherever we need to be, or give me a sign and show me that work still needs to be done here. And I don't know. I just feel like our life here has been much more purposeful than it has ever felt, for me anyway, has ever felt back home. So he asked me sometimes, like, oh, would you ever move? Like, what are your thoughts about moving back home? Because our family obviously misses us. And if I could move right now, would I? And I say no, because I feel like our roots are, or I feel like we're well anchored here, that even in the motion of whatever is going on in our life, we're supposed to be anchored here for a little bit longer. And so in my work and what I do as a yoga instructor, as a light worker, I like to say, is just trying to help others find a more meaningful life through connection, through relationships, through connecting with themselves as well. I went through a rough patch as well, 2 years ago, where I felt like I lost my identity as a mom. As I I'm an entrepreneur, so I like to juggle a handful of things at one time. And I was like, well, what am I doing? Do I even like what I'm doing? Do I even love? I do photography and wedding planning, and I'm like, do I love it? And he's like, oh, maybe you should just hone in on one, because I'm like, along came Polly. I just have all these jobs, or random jobs, and I said, I love what I do. I love being a part of this, and I love, showing my creative side here, and my mental and physical side is through yoga. But all encompassing, I feel like all of the things that I do is share a part of me, where I feel like if I make a connection with someone, if I share my values with someone, maybe that will spark something in them to share their values as well, to want to dig deeper into themselves, and how they want to live their life, and what they want to share with others, because all of us have something to share, right? You created this podcast to share stories from everyone, to give light to someone, to give hope to someone else as well, right? It doesn't matter what their story is, and if there's one person that can relate to our story, or grab that glimpse of hope from one story from any of your podcasts, then we've done our job,
Mhm.
right? We've made an impact on that one person, and I feel like that one person will continue that ripple effect and affect the next person, and so forth. So um yeah, I think with our day-to-day basis, like Matthew decided to get our kids to write 5 goals that they have for their day, and it's been going great so far. It's really pushed them to think more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, the reason why I kind of I started to um, have them do that was because, sometimes, with the pandemic, I understand their kids, they get bored easy. And sometimes they're kind of like aimlessly looking for stuff to do. And when I apply it to myself and I go, okay, so, what we do with our lives and the kind of dreams that we have, they're in our head, and, these notions that we want to do good for the community and everything that we could possibly dream of to want to do good, you
Mhm.
know, if it just stays in our mind without action, then it just becomes what they say is like a dream without action is just a dream.
Mhm.
So what you got to start to do is have these goals to achieve your dreams so that they can become reality. And I just wanted my kids to have something to strive for, and be somebody who they think they can be, and push the limit, and you know kind of you know find out more about themselves and what they can achieve, right? And that's through action and not just in the mind, because man, like, a lot of people have a lot of great ideas that just stay in the mind. If it just stays in there without action, then you know it, it's a wasted dream.
Mhm.
And for my kids, I just want them to look at what they're interested in, or what moves them, and go, or what inspires them, and say, okay, I want to be that person. Okay, what is it going to take for you to be that person? With a plan or with steps. You have an overall dream, but what are the little steps you can do to get there? And I just want them to be goal oriented in achieving what they feel like is who they want to be, and the goodness of um, of their goals, and what they want to achieve. So um, yeah, I just want them to have that mindset that you can grow through your problems and your situations and difficulty, as
Mhm.
long as you set yourself out to try to overcome everything.
Mhm.
And the thing about um, what we've been through, um, I guess this change in perspective that I had with everything that we've been through is that um, you know the negative things don't always have to be looked at as a bad situation. It's there to basically propel you to grow, and be a person that you weren't before.
Mhm.
And to look at the pandemic now, in relation to what we've been through, everything we've been through, it was kind of God's way to train us to deal with the situations that we're in now.
Mhm.
So, if we look at life, and all the learning experiences that we gain, and the pain and the suffering, it the most important thing is to kind of look at how we respond to the pains and sufferings of our lives, and which direction we take it, and it has prepared everything that we've been through, has prepared us for this day and this pandemic, this moment, to deal with things. And sometimes it's to help ourselves, and sometimes it's to help people kind of get through you know a situation that we've already been through, to hold someone's hand, or to you know be the guiding person to say, hey, I've been through something like this. Don't let it get you down. Remember, it's something that's going to make you stronger, and put you forward in life, and help you reach your destiny. Because without the suffering, without the pain, the life can't just always be good. And sometimes pain is our best teacher, to kind of look at ourselves and go, hey man, there's things I need to change, to make my life more meaningful. And sometimes the shaking of life is I've heard something say something like, you know when life shakes us, right, we kind of run to God, um, only to find out that it's God doing the shaking, because he wants us to change something in our lives, to live a more purposeful life, or to change something, and go reevaluate. So I just want my kids, and to kind of always have that growth mindset, to kind of take things as they come, whether it's good or bad. Take it as something that's for your life and for your own purpose, because I think God gives us these situations and trials, and whether they're good or bad, to basically say He knows who we are. This is what's gonna. I know this is what's gonna kind of, the message will be clear if I give Him this situation, whether it's good or bad. So we gotta just take these things in life, with like these, like that, my heart surgery. Like, it really, going through it, it really helped me um, be more faithful in my life, because when I was in the hospital, I was in a really bad place, and I just wanted to go home. And you could tell her, you could ask her, and I was so angry at everybody, and everybody was trying to pray for me, and but I felt like the world, for everything that we've been through leading up to that point, I felt like the world was just coming down on me. And what changed that for me, when I was in the hospital, was kind of letting it go and going, okay, I accept this situation that I have, and it's supposed to be telling me something. It's supposed to be teaching me something, to be more faithful, maybe. And as soon as I let that go, things started to get better in my life. I actually started to, get healthier, and I was able to kind of work my way out of the hospital, because I thought I was just going to be in there or even die there. But as soon as I looked at that situation and I went, okay, and I really spoke to God, and God can mean anything to you personally, right? And what that is like inside of you. And I said, what's the best thing that can come from this? And the faith, and the people coming together, and I just saw the silver linings and everything. So that just really helped in kind of taking situations, good or bad, and working it for your life, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm just so enamored by your stories. That's so inspiring, and it's just, the way you've moved forward from that, and how you've dedicated your lives to, sharing inspiration, and being there for your community. And from being someone that doesn't know your story as deeply, just seeing you on social media, I actually thought, based on the roots that you've made and how many people you've connected with and how many people I know you through just on social media, I honestly thought you both just, grew up here. Just were born here and grew up here, and you've built this community since you were children. But it's so inspiring that this is something that you've done after a move of after, living in California and growing up there and then coming here. And I know both my husband and I, we both have, grown up in the Lower Mainland. We've lived here our entire lives. Our entire families are here. And, in the last couple of years since, we've, been married and we've started to think about our life and our purpose, we both, well, my husband, he wants to move, because he's like, I want to move somewhere and I want to build a life and see if we can do it. And I'm the one that's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to be away from my family, and I'm always in the mindset of emergencies. I want to be as close as possible to get there as quick as possible. And, and he's always, and during this pandemic, right at the beginning, he said to me, whatever you do during this pandemic, just, I want you to think, now that we have to be away from our families, if you can do it, mentally, could you do it, or emotionally, because we FaceTime them, we call them, right? That's not much different than what you do if you do move away. And so he challenged me to think, can you move away? And, just a few days ago, I said to him, I think I could. I think I can actually move away, because I feel like our relationships, or my relationships with my family, is so much deeper because I intentionally phone them now. And the little bit of time that we see each other distantly, it's, more quality time, because I know I'm not going to be able to see them as close, because both my mom and my dad are essential workers. So I was like, yeah, I can't really see them as closely as I would like. But, it's really made a change. And so I can, I'm totally inspired by your story, that you were able to move here and set your roots and build the community that you have, because I can tell it's very strong. And just seeing, I see Diana on Instagram more so than you, Matthew, but it's just seeing her just kind of wherever I go, she's there, and it's just so inspiring. And we just found out that even the gym I go to, Diana teaches there. And so of all the gyms in the Lower Mainland, the one I go to is the one she teaches at, and it's just inspiring, the community you've built, and the work that you're doing with your children in building resiliency. I would say it's amazing, because I think that's a real skill that that is so important for children, to be able to build that resiliency and understand how to move about challenges, and in their experiences. Because I feel like a lot of the time we try to take away pain from our children, because we don't want them to feel that, we don't want them to experience hardship or anything like that. So we try to create a happier world for them. But it's important to also give them those skills as well, to say that if you're going through a challenge, here's how you move about. And so I'm really inspired by what you've been doing with yourselves, but also passing that forward to your children. And I know the world is going to benefit greatly from both of you, but also the skills and the trust that you're putting forward in your children, and having them move forward in the world, and continuing to spread that message that you're both spreading as well. So I think it's inspiring. And we was I think the fourth episode I actually did with a good friend of mine, and she wanted to talk about God, and she messaged me ahead of time, and she's like, I talked about God in the podcast, but I don't know if I should have. I don't know if we should talk about religion or faith. And I said, no, of course, because faith is something that, whatever, like you said, whatever you want to call God and whatever it means to you, it's something that does give you purpose and does propel you, and you put your faith into God, and it just does something that I think, when you say you're spiritual, or if you say you're religious or whatnot, whatever you call it, there's something, a bigger force, a higher purpose that you're reaching for, and that's guiding you. And I was trying to remember what Jackie said in her episode, but she said that she has these little messengers, I guess, that would come and give her the messages, and she has to just be there to hear it and hear what the messages are. And I feel that that's all very similar to faith. And growing up, my mom is not religious at all. She's the last person, I've tried to encourage her to find faith or find something to believe in, and she's, the last person to want to do that. But when she's really struggling or really challenged, she goes to church. And I always tell her, I'm like, Mom, there's a reason you are drawn to go into church whenever you're struggling. You need, and she's on that journey trying to figure out what she wants to believe in, and we grew up Muslim, but because my grandparents are Muslim and that's our heritage. But my mom was always like, we don't need to be just Muslim, and so growing up, she would take us we've been to every single church of every single religion that you could think of. We spent 2 years where every 4 months we were in a different community of people. We were at Catholic churches, we were in Christian churches, we went to Buddhist temples, we were, at Indian temples or Sikh temples, at Hindu temples, and she just wanted us to understand that, we're all one, and we're all just trying to move forward in life to build faith and community, and move forward. And I always find that that's, has really changed my perspective and how I feel in the world. And so I really appreciate you sharing that.
Actually, we've said that several times. It doesn't matter, what you believe in. And I think Jackie is probably speaking of spirit guides or her angels. They, everybody holds on to whatever they want to. And we've said it before, we would love to go to a Buddhist temple. We would love to go to different churches to see, because it's the way that you interpret the message. It's the way that the message speaks to you, right? There's certain pastors in our church that don't speak to us the way same thing with your instructors or your personal trainers or
Right.
whoever it is. It's like, you have to make that connection. And for us, it is about community. Is it about connection? But it's more so like for me anyway, how if I didn't have my faith, I would not be standing here today.
Mm-hmm.
If I did not have that strength that I do pull and receive from God, there is no way I would be alive.
Mm-hmm.
We've been through so much trauma. We've faced death. We've faced loss. We've faced separation. There's so much that if I didn't have that, I would not be here. And again, the reason why we carry that for our children, and when we pray during our meal times or things like that, we always tell them, yeah, you can talk about, we used to say, oh, let's pray for someone else. Be thankful. One thing you're thankful for, one person you want to pray for, and what was the other one? I forget what the one thing that you want to pray for. A person you want to pray for, one thing that you're thankful for, and I forget what the other thing, but to give them a reason. Again, you can pray for something that is good, or you can be thankful for something good or thankful for something bad. Because sometimes I say, thank you for the good and the bad, because I know that there's a reason. The big and the little, like the big and the small.
Mm-hmm.
Our blessings come in disguise sometimes, and especially during this pandemic, we talk about it all the time. And I mean, what a time to live in now, where I mean, we're talking about a pandemic, here today, that, like you said, your relationship is closer with your family. And even if you felt like you couldn't uproot your life and now you're thinking, oh, maybe I can, it just shows how strong your relationship was with your family, that you don't want to leave. Like, you couldn't even bear the thought of leaving, that you couldn't be close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And when we left, I mean, I had moments where I would cry and I was like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And that was in the beginning stages, where I was just, because I wanted to settle back into my comfort zone. I wanted to be where it felt like home.
Yeah.
And now, him asking me that question, would you move back home? And I'm like, no, that's beyond me. Because then I think, again, if our work is somewhere else, wherever it is, Egypt or wherever, like, we can do it there. If we did it here, we can create a life there.
Mm-hmm.
And God puts people in our path, the people that are meant to be here, like Jackie and her family. Like, we met at a market. We met at a maker's market. And I mean, I would have never thought she would be one of my best friends right now.
Mm-hmm.
And our other best friend who lives in Calgary right now, I would have never. And the funny thing is my friend that lives in Calgary is 10 years younger than I am, but you would never know the difference, because, there's no age in connection. There's no age in that type of relationship or sisterhood that you have. And I'm sure you have that with your friends or family as well. And I would have never thought that we would have a long distance best friendship, right? Like, where we're talking on Zoom. But I agree with you that having that relationship with your family, even from abroad, makes it stronger. When we first moved here, I was telling him that the relationship was stronger. So when I would come back and visit my family, then it wasn't like, when you're home and they're always, asking you see them all the time. There's not much, what's the word I'm looking for? Depth in your conversation. It's kind of like, oh, did you eat today? What did you do? Like, how was work? Kind of basic. And now we have these conversations that are much more in depth, much more just full of life. Like, and we genuinely want to know, like, we genuinely want to make sure that everybody's okay, that, when we do and when we are able to see each other again, that it's going to mean that much more, because we've survived everything that we've been through.
Yeah.
And with our kids, we want them to be more passionate about the life that they live and the person that they are, because that's what we always tell them. Like we tell our kids all the time, they're into video games, and we say, when you die, people aren't going to go, oh man, Logan's Xbox was amazing, or he had the best scooter. They're going to talk about you as a person.
Right.
They're going to say, man, Logan was so funny. He made us laugh all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he made us feel good when we came over. And he was so caring. They talk about you, and we want, it's that saying that, be the type of person that if someone was to say something bad about you, nobody would believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you are you. And I tell Matthew all the time, like, people want to connect to you, whether you're a plumber or a home inspector or a cable guy or whatever you are. They want to connect to you. They want to know the person that's providing the service for them. They want to, any type of connection, whether it's, let's say the person that you're connecting with has 3 children as well, or 3 boys, or maybe loves California as well, or listens to podcasts all the time, whatever it is. People want to connect. We're humans. We have that need to connect with someone or something. And this is why this time is so hard, because that connection that we value, that in-person connection that means more than anything else, has been taken away from us. Mm-hmm. And so, like, even for myself and my work, I try to make myself available to my clients and still make that connection, because later on, like, I want them to know that whether it's online or offline, I'm still here. Like, you can still connect with me, you can still find me, and I don't want to lose that connection. And same thing with our kids. Like, even with their feelings, like you said, I was raised to suppress feelings. I was raised like, no, don't cry, don't feel like that, don't act that way. And sometimes I do catch myself saying that to my kids, but to be perfectly honest, when I am not in that element, I tell my kids, like, okay, it's okay to cry. You can cry. Like, it's tough. And Matthew's really good. He's like the kid whisperer. He's like, you must be really hurt that was taken away from you. And I'm like, okay, you're the better parent here. But at the same time, I want them to feel, because I cry all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, how come it's okay for me to cry, but it's not okay for you to cry? How come it's okay for me to feel my feelings, but not you? So as we all navigate this time together, he's right. Sometimes I need to loosen my reins on things and let them cope in a way that is helpful and conducive for their growth during this time. And I sometimes don't let them do that. And I'm learning every day from each of my kids, because my kids bring something different to again, like, they're all very different. Mm-hmm. I can't parent them the same. I definitely don't treat them the same. And I feel like during this time, they need me to allow them to flourish. I mean, obviously we're trying to guide them a little bit, but we want them to be able to flourish into the people that they are. So again, if my eldest son is a comedian, he jokes all day, I need to learn how to laugh at his jokes and not get frustrated that he jokes all the time. And I sometimes I'm that mom that's like, okay, like, who knows, maybe when you get older, you're going to be, the next Adam Sandler or whoever comedian you think is hilarious. And that's all great, but your mom can only take so much today. Or, or my middle son, who's super emotional. And I always say that it's because it was during the time when he was in the hospital, and I did a lot of crying, and I did a lot of, like, soul searching at that time. I feel like that is a reason he is the way that he is. Then I have to embrace that that's the person that he is, that he does cry a lot. He does share his emotions. He does feel pain and wants to share that, and wants to just unravel himself quite often.
Mhm.
right? And then whereas my youngest one is just playful and wants to be that caring, nurturing, fun, charismatic brother to everybody. So again, whoever you are and whatever you feel and whatever person you are, once you start to realize that and put everything else aside, and I always say it like this: when you peel back the layers of who you think you should be because of either how you were raised or how you were conditioned in society or what you were told to do or whatever, or a bubble you're trying to fit, um, you start to realize that, like, this is who I am. Like, I really want to lean in towards this. And this is what led me to become an instructor, what led me to be a mom. I knew I wanted to be a mom. And I feel like even my students, I mother my students, I treat them in this certain way. And the same thing with Matthew. I mean, I don't know, like, wherever he goes, you know, people want to be around him because of the person that he is. And he inspires so many people, and people think Matthew is like always calm and like this like cool like guy, but he also has feelings too. Like, he can get, in this state of mind, like he can get frazzled, but he knows now how to, get himself back to his place of calm, place of like purpose, place of like, where do I start? How do I come back to this place where I can be, what's the word I'm looking
The
for?
most effective.
Yeah, the most effective, the most productive, but also leaning into like, this is the moment we need to live in. These are like, again, any time isn't wasted. Like, I mean, the only thing you can waste is time. And now we're starting to know, especially now, like with our kids, like knowing we have all this time with them now. And when life goes back to normal, or however you want to look at it, we want to still be able to have this same time with them, even when life gets back to normal.
Yeah.
We're going on family walks, we're going on, he's going on runs with my son, we're going in the field and just playing. Like, we're going back to the basics of where we know we don't need things, right? We don't want to lean on, and I'm sure that you've noticed, maybe, I don't know, but um, people are leaning on, their relationships, leaning on their health, leaning on, um, or taking more time for the things that will help them live a more meaningful life, a more purposeful life. And their creative side is coming out, and just all of these things are revealing themselves because we're not thinking about going shopping or going to the mall or going this or doing that, all of the things that we're so prone to doing outside of our homes, right? So
Yeah.
I
I think that is it's so true that during this time, when you take out all that other stuff and you go back to the basics of and with my husband being home now, it's amazing because he gets to spend more time with my daughter and sees a whole different side of her that he wouldn't see because he works the traditional job. And so when he'd come home, it's an hour before bedtime and he'd get only that little bit of time with her. So the fact that they get to spend all day together, it's just totally changed their relationship and allowed them to connect more, and also has allowed me to be able to take that time to be more self-reflective, because as when you have kids, it's just like go 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 and you're with them all the time, that you sometimes need that time for yourself. And I had goals and plans for my maternity leave, which was long, 17 months, but I didn't get to them because I just couldn't get to it, because I just didn't have the capacity to be able to get that time to just think. But I'm so grateful, not that there is a pandemic, but that there's this time to slow down and be able to reflect. And even with this podcast, I, have had this idea for years and years, and I never really took the had the guts to do it until my husband said, in mid-March, he's like, everybody's just sitting at home. They're probably looking to connect with people and hear these stories. This is a great time for you to just start. And he's like, strike while the iron's hot, because people are craving this kind of connection right now. And that really propelled me to get started. And I'm a planner, so I plan things out, and then I get started in a year or 6 months or something, and I just put this together in 2 weeks, because I was like, let's do it. Let's just move forward with it. And I'm so grateful, because it's really not only allowed me to reflect and hear and learn from, great guests like the two of you, and, take that back and have it, reflect on it and make those changes in my own life, but also has allowed me to hear what other people have said. I've gotten lots of messages from people that are sharing deeper than I ever thought, and even to my own sister, who, like you said, Diana, like, we were raised, my parents are divorced. So I feel like we didn't really get two parents that, were there for us, because they were always arguing and bickering and fighting, and to this day, they've been divorced. I'm 31, and they divorced when I was 8 years old. And, they still do that to this day. So I feel like we got lost in the mix, my sister and I. So we were, nobody was really emotionally available for us. So we were taught, just be quiet, don't talk about it. And we were raised by our grandparents, who are like, even, your grandparents, like, it's just, they're even from a different generation, where it's like, you don't talk about anything. So we didn't grow up being able to talk about our emotions, our feelings, to process what was going on with our parents and everything like that. And, I've taken that on my own to do that work and, heal. And with having my daughter, it really propelled it even further. But my sister has never done that. And I always try to encourage her, but, you can only do so much until somebody's ready for their own journey.
Absolutely.
But with this pandemic, because she was the type of person that you can't catch her at home for more than 5 minutes, because she's going here, doing this, doing that, seeing this person, seeing that person. And she always says she can't be home for more than a couple minutes. But because she has to in this pandemic, she's, came out and expressed her emotions to me of how she's thriving emotionally and mentally during this pandemic, because she doesn't have the pressure of being out all the time. She's been able to slow down, focus on her health and fitness, focus on her emotions, focus on what she really needs in life. And last week was her birthday, and she told me that she's having the best birthday ever, because she doesn't have to think about planning a party. And I had shared that in one of my stories last week as well, because my birthday was also last week. But she, said, oh, you shared this, so I wanted to share with you. And I thought to myself that she's never done that in our entire life, and we're only a year apart, but she's never come to me with anything remotely emotional or something for me to get to know the inside of her. Like, what is she thinking, going through, processing? None of that. And so it's just, I think that this time was, a time that, I think that it's a blessing in disguise, because a lot of us have really needed to slow down, and reevaluate our priorities and where we're putting our time and our energy in. And I think that, both of you have shared your stories, and I think that you've really honed that message, that slowing down allows you to really live your life with purpose and make the most out of the time that you have, daily. And, and Diana, I saw a post you did about running with your kids at 7 a.m. And that, to me, I was like, who's running at 7 a.m? Who's even up at 7 a.m? And that really, I remember the next day, because my daughter gets up very early too, and usually it's my husband that goes to her. But that day, the next day, I remember she got up at 6 a.m. and, had breakfast and everything, and it was 7. And I said to my husband, do you want to go for a walk? And he's like, at 7 a.m., like, who are you? And I was like, well, Hannah went for a run yesterday, so I feel like we should go for a walk, and it was awesome, because she just loves to go out into nature and just do, things that, that you, like, as an adult, you think that you need to fill your time with so many other things, but just go back to the way kids think, or when you thought as a kid. It's just the basics, go out into nature, enjoy life, just do like the small things, that bring the most joy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our little one, whenever we go out on walks, we're like, he's so cute because he's always talking about how beautiful everything is.
Yeah.
So like, Mom, look at these beautiful flowers. Look at how beautiful they are. Oh my goodness, look at how beautiful the trees are. They're so big. And he just points out these little things that when we're walking or people are walking, they're just passing by, looking at their phones. Like nobody notices those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
You know, when I go out on my runs or walking and we hear like the birds and things like that, we're like, wow, it's so nice. Sometimes even when I'm teaching yoga in the morning and I'll leave the door open, I will at the end of my practice I'll hear the birds like chirping, and it sounds, you know, on the recording it sounds like fake, like I'm playing birds chirping, but I'm like, no, this is real life.
Yeah.
This is like, and you know, during this time it's making us appreciate the outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
nature, fresh air, being able to like be out, because otherwise people would be indoors like watching Netflix and playing video games and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get our kids out, I mean, I love it. I'm like, we should go for a walk, or we should go here. And even if you just go outside for like 20 minutes, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation has played a huge role. I was just telling him that I want to start, because I think for me, I love meditation with my clients, and especially in studio, I feel more connected to them in studio. But I said, I think I'm going to make meditations accessible online. And so, you know, on one of my 5 goals of the day was like, give myself a 10-minute meditation at least. And before our podcast, I took my 10 minutes of meditation just to like ground myself before we started talking. And it was just so helpful for me to like ease any of the stirring thoughts in my mind, any anxiousness, any tiredness in my body, because you begin to notice how you feel. And if you just, like you said, if we slow down, if we take the time to pause throughout our day, even as parents, like pause before we react.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very emotional as well, so like sometimes I need to take a pause and understand where my feelings are coming from, understand where my triggers are, why I react the way that I do. And even talking to friends and being able to express those things. I talk to his mom all the time, and I mean, she's like one of my best friends, and we just like talk and talk and talk about everything. I think just having that opportunity to unload everything, like you said, like even with your partner, your spouse, whoever, being able to unload your feelings helps release any of the stress, any of the burden, anything that you're feeling, because you don't have to carry it yourself, right?
Right.
And sometimes I tell him, even when we're talking about feelings, I think that's a big thing as well in your partnerships or your relationships that you have, is sometimes when people are sharing things with you, it's not always about getting advice, because our natural thing is to give advice. Our natural thing is, if something's going on with you, then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is exactly what you need to do, or, you know, whatever. And sometimes just being here to be my soundboard, and I always tell him, I appreciate you just listening. Sometimes I just want you to just not say anything and just listen, because I just need to like spill it all out to you. I just need to tell you everything that I'm feeling, because it's real. And if I don't tell you, then it's going to be in here, and I'm going to be stressed, and then that's going to project onto the way that I'm treating you and the kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like in everything that we do, throughout all my journey, it's always just been about learning to really live in the moment, really honor what I'm feeling, um, um, listening and leaning into what is the messages that are being shared around me, whether it's through him, through friends, through sermons, whatever it is. And yeah, just hold on to those values, like especially in the time that we live in social media, just being connected. Sometimes I see a lot of people that, you know, do things that they don't want to do. I have friends that are bloggers or like big time influencers. And for me, it's not about influencing anyone, it's about inspiring and impacting others.
Mm-hmm.
But some people will sell out and not hold on to their morals and values to just, you know, get followers or just do this. And I'm not about that. I would much rather have a wholesome connection, and inspire someone else, or one person just with the values that I have, than 10,000 people that don't see life the same way that I do.
Yeah.
So I believe that, like, when you have your genuine following, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people, those are the people that are meant to be there. Those are the people that are meant to be on your path, on your journey, listening, and the people that really care about what you deliver, whatever message that you're trying to share. Right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, that just rings so true, because we usually get lost, you know, in the vanity metrics of our importance or our message being received, in looking at the likes and the shares and the number of followers and all that. But we don't actually realize how much impact we have, just like you said, even to just one person. Like, we could completely change and transform their lives just for sharing our one story to them. You know, and even if, you know, not everybody receiving it the same way, but as long as one person is receiving it and it's helping them and inspiring them to move forward and make a change, you know, it really does does make that impact that you want to make and inspire. And like I said, it always moves forward in different generations. You know, when one person just stops and says, I'm not going to continue this cycle and I'm going to make this change and stop it where it stops with me, you know, the generations moving forward from you, you're going to pass that forward. You are going to start that new cycle of positivity, of being joyful, like being more purposeful, and just being, you know, happy and understanding that. And I know both my husband and I, you know, we both come from completely different backgrounds, but we both, you know, he's just, you know, he can walk into a room and make 10 best friends instantly and walk out. Everybody will know his name and remember who he is. Whereas I'm more of the person that just kind of hangs out in the back and observes and kind of like listens in, and probably nobody even realized I was there. So when we first got together, I would always tell him, I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Like, how are you able to make so much small talk with people that, you know, and jokes, like, do you keep jokes in a book, like in your back pocket? Like how do you come up with all this stuff, you know? And, but when it comes to, you know, our backgrounds, you know, I was, you know, I'm able to be more emotional, I guess, with myself, and, you know, express more. So I'm drawn to more deeper connection and deeper, meaningful friendships and relationships, but with a smaller amount of people. Where for him, he's like, you know, everybody's his best friend and everybody just loves him. But I don't know if he's ever been able to have more deep, meaningful connections at a deeper level. In this last year and a half since we've had our daughter, we've both kind of flipped, you know, and you know, I still have my deep, meaningful connections, but I'm able or being pushed to go connect more with other, you know, moms, so that, you know, my daughter can have people to play with, because none of my friends have kids her age. So I was pushed to go into these groups of people that I didn't know, and to make those connections and, you know, be friends with people, because I've never really done that. All my friends have been my friends forever. So, you know, having to go out and make those connections with people that I didn't even know. And some of those relationships are now deeper than relationships I've had since I was a child, you know, because it's more purposeful, it's more meaningful. I actually went out with an intention to make those connections, you know. And for him, he's actually been able to dive a lot deeper into his emotions and grow way more in the last year and a half as a person, to the point where he's now emotionally there for a friend of his that's going through a challenging time. And previously, if his friends would say, you know, I'm going through a hard time, he would change the subject, you know, and be like, so what do you think of the last hockey game or something? And he wouldn't even go there. And I kept telling him, like, your friend's trying to confide in you. You should be there. You should explore, you know, ask more questions, because, you know, he wouldn't come to you if he didn't want you to if he didn't want to confide in you about what he's going through, you know?
Mhm.
So I feel like we've just done a complete switch in the last year and a half when we've tried to be more intentional. And I do think and I don't know if this resonates with you, but I think having our daughter, it's completely changed us because we see the world a little bit different now. Just seeing how, you say one thing today and then tomorrow she starts repeating that word. And it's just that relationship or that growth that they do so quickly. It's really changed us to be more careful and more mindful and live a life that we would want her to live in the future. So if we, like Matthew does, I do similar things like Matthew, where, I'm trying to label her emotions for her so that, she can move forward with that. And my husband is more like you don't have to label every single emotion that she goes through. Like you can just have just normal conversation. And I'm like, no, we need to identify our emotions so she can understand what she's going through and move forward and realize that, I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm frustrated, and this, allowing her to feel that. And I think that's really made a big difference for us, having her and being more mindful of the way we present ourselves, and trying to live a happier life. Because, my husband actually always says, he's like, because we both grew up with parents that were more angry, I guess, or more, just not as happy. They didn't take the time to try to be happy or learn what made them happy. They just kind of dealt with whatever they were given from their parents and the coping skills or the emotional intelligence that they were given or received, and they didn't take the time to grow from that. And so, the both of us said that we don't want to put that pressure on our kids, that we received as kids. So once we had her, we both realized that we needed to make big changes in the way we live. And I feel like that she's really moved the needle for us a lot further, and trying to be more purposeful with the way we are, the way we react, the way we process information, the time we take out for each other. Both of us have started to exercise a lot more in the last year and a half. And now my daughter is taking my husband's like resistance bands and trying to like do her own exercise, even though she can. She's only a year and a half, but it's amazing how much impact you have, just living your purpose or just living your own life. And with that, I know it's been a little while, but I just wanted to kind of wrap up the conversation and just ask you, what is one piece of advice you can give to someone that's going through a challenging time right now, but looking for that purpose or looking for that faith and how to move forward? What is the one piece of advice or a tool or a resource or something that you've used or done that really has helped you to seek the message or the light that you did?
Well, I mean, going back to what your last guest, I don't know who it was, but when they said, "Man, I should have talked about God," whether I call it God, whether Jackie calls it spirit guides, whether you call it Buddha, my advice would be to whatever you want to call it, that pureness of, because when you tap into that intuition, and that energy that's pure, we all hold that within us, right? And when we silence ourselves in meditation, or we tap into prayer, we all can tap into that God in ourselves, right? So my advice is to always put that God first in your life, and it'll guide you through the good times and bad times and how we treat people. I try to gauge my personal growth on basically how I treat people, and that's my reflection of how much have I grown, because I could learn everything in my head, but it doesn't mean anything if I'm treating somebody that isn't a reflection of what I've learned or what I've what I've understood or learned in my life. So putting God first is like number one for me, and a gauge of how much I've grown as a person is basically an evaluation of how I treat people around me, my family, my friends. I mean, it could be somebody at the store. And that's a really a big reflection of like how much I've learned and how much, you know, I've really tapped into the God within me, to be able to treat people a certain way, or a change in the way I do things in life is just, you know, what I put first in my life and what I value most. Is it a career, or is it, I mean, because we can kind of get tangled, right, into pursuing things. But, you know, if we put that pure energy of God into everything that we do, then, you know, there's something in that you can take from it. And then, you know, it also is building your community, because you're treating people a different way, or you're helping somebody, you know, through what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my best advice.
Yeah, little guys waking up.
Yeah.
I agree with Matthew, but I'll stem it from intuitiveness, because you hear this all the time, especially nowadays. There's intuitives, there's light workers, we all we are all intuitive. We all have our a light within us that just sometimes goes out depending on what we go through in life. Sometimes needs a spark again, right? I mean, you always hear like, oh, you sparked something in me, and now, you know, I'm a changed person, or, you know, whatever. And I think the biggest thing is that if you live a truly grateful life, if you live a truly intuitive life where you trust in either yourself and the life that you want to live, and your values, or you trust in God, or you trust in the fact that everything's going to be okay in your life, it's that much, it becomes that much more meaningful on a day-to-day purpose. Whatever you do, whatever you project, whatever actions you take, whatever goals that you have for yourself, that's all visible to you. And whatever, and however that however you share that with the world, people are going to know. Jackie and I talk about this all the time, how real knows real. Like, I can't pretend to be someone in front of you and then on my Instagram feed be someone else, and then at home be someone. Like, there's no way. There's no way that is going to be something that's sustainable, and there's no way that you could be one thing and the other and still feel good about what you're doing. And so I want to always feel good about what I'm doing. I want my kids and my friends and my family to feel good and feel loved and feel appreciated and everything. And that's my big thing. I want everyone should be loved. Everyone should feel worthy. Everyone should feel that way. And so I think, not to go off on a tangent, but like, when you talk to yourself in the morning, when you have those mirror moments, you want to be able to talk to yourself like you would talk to your friend, like you would tell your friend, right? You can't, I can't say, oh my gosh, you are so beautiful. Like you're like, I can just see your heart, and like tell you all of these great things as a friend. And then for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you such an idiot? And you just can't do anything. And your body's this. And but like, how does that help me? You know, you have to hone into that worthiness that you feel, that intention, that gratitude in your heart, and that love. And if you do that, if you start your day that way, if you continue to live your life like that, then there will always be meaning in everything that you do. Right?
Can I just add one more thing? Like, when it kind of relates to your situation and how you wanted to start this podcast, right? Like, you were kind of afraid at first, and you know, but you had the good intention there to start it. And, you know, and my advice would be to, like, your listeners out there is, you know, just like what you did, is to listen to that intuition, or that's something, that good thing that you want to do in life. Like, I always refer to things that I've heard in the past, but Denzel Washington, on one of his commencement speeches, he said something like, that goodness of, that you feel in your heart to want to do good, it's like God's proof beforehand, or sent beforehand to indicate that it's already yours. You just have to put in the work to get it, So, that goodness in your heart to basically start this podcast and to make an impact in people's lives, that's already yours. You've claimed it, and it's already there for you. And God's sending that feeling to you, saying it's already yours. You just gotta take the action to get it. So I commend you for doing that. And, a lot of us have that, and to always listen to that goodness in your heart to want to do something, follow that. And, don't let anything stop you from achieving that. And like Denzel Washington said, it's the proof is there, that feeling that you get, it's already there. You just got to claim it, and put it forward in your life. So
yeah, thank you so much for that, because it's sometimes it's nerve-wracking to try to move forward with something totally different, but being like I just watched Michelle Obama's documentary, and she said, what she was in her early life was a box checker, check, 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 did everything that she thought she would do, and then realized at one point that, her husband was a force. And she actually said, she's like, my husband was a tsunami, and I realized that if I didn't figure out who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, I was just going to be an appendage to him and his tsunami, and that I needed to kind of create something for myself, so I wasn't just a part of him, or I wasn't just his wife, but I had my own purpose, my own vision for my life.
Sure.
And and she said, being a box checker for her, she's like, it wasn't going to cut it, it wasn't going to do that for her. And that completely resonated with me, because that's what I was, check, check, check. I from a young age, my grandparents said, you have to get a master's degree, you have to work in government, and check, check, check. I did it. And then I realized it just wasn't for me. It's not what makes me happy. And so doing this podcast is, brought a level of joy. It's a lot of work, but it's the kind of work that you don't, when they say the typical thing of when you find your passion, it doesn't feel like work, but it totally is like that, because when you love what you do, it's not work anymore. It's just a part of who you are and who you're supposed to be this whole time. It just takes time to get there and to find who you are. So I really appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate you both. Yeah. I appreciate.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, yeah, no, keep going for it. It's a great thing to try to reach out to these people and inspire people, and you've already done that, just with what you've done so far, and I'm sure it's making a lot of impact to a lot of people.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I know I really appreciate both of you sharing your story. And for me, it's been extremely inspiring, and I think it's definitely going to inspire lots and lots of people that hear this episode and just hear your story, and realize that there is so much that they can tap into, so much potential once they just believe in themselves and find that guide that can help them get there to whatever they're meant to be doing. And I really
thank you again.
Thank you so much for both of you for being on, and I really appreciate it. And I'll tag both their social media accounts, so if anyone wants to reach out or has any questions, you can go ahead and check out their social media accounts. So thank you so much for both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode, and I hope that the stories of Diana and Matthew has inspired you to set forth on living a more purposeful and meaningful life, and getting started on your journey to finding your purpose in life, and understanding the kind of life that you do want to have, and the kind of life that you want to exist for yourself and create. And if you have anyone that you would like to nominate to hear more from, to understand how they learned to do something, or if you yourself wanted to be on the podcast, please send me a note, and I'm happy to connect and have you to be on a future episode. And with that, if you could please like, subscribe, follow, and share our podcast with all your family and your friends. We do load up videos on YouTube as well as on our social media platforms. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as all other major podcast platforms. So if you have any questions, please connect with me. But with that, I'd just like to remind you again that you have the ability to catalyze your life from ordinary to extraordinary. And it all starts with you. It all starts with that moment that you decide consciously to make a change and live a more happier life. All right. So I'll see you guys next week for another great episode with another guest. And in the meantime, I hope that you're enjoying all the content that we're sending out, our blog posts, our podcast episodes. And if you have any suggestions or any need for any other kinds of tools or resources, send me a note again and I'll try to get that together for you. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.